Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back. I hope you all have been enjoying Dragonflight. The first 2 weeks have been a blast. I've had so much fun playing this game. There's been like so many little things that I didn't think I would enjoy. I never thought I'd be the type of person to fly around and collect dirt for hours upon hours, but here I am. That's what I've been doing. It's been a hell of a time. But right around the corner, this coming Tuesday is Mythic Plus and the Raid. It's all opening up on Tuesday, Heroic difficulty and Mythic and Normal. And then Mythic Plus is opening right away as well. The loot from Mythic Plus is going to be uncapped all the way up to plus 20. So we're going to get to go wild, get as much gear as we can. Now, of course, you're probably not going to time a plus 20 this week. If you do, awesome. The average person will not. And don't just, keep your expectations in line. You're probably not going to time a plus 20, but you'll probably be doing 10s, maybe a little higher, possibly some 15s. So yeah, that's what you can do. And if you want to prepare for that, there's some things you can do. And I'm going to talk to you about that today. I just want to say before we get into it that these aren't necessarily things that you have to do. The average person really shouldn't do some of these. You can do the absolute basics, but there's certain things that only people with a lot of gold should really do. Some of it is kind of nonsensical to do at this point in time, because, if you're paying 50k gold for an enchant to put on a weapon that you're probably going to replace in a couple days, it doesn't quite make sense. But you can get the lower version of the enchant, and maybe that's a little bit more affordable. But yeah, let's go over things right now. We'll start from the absolute most basics. I'm going to stand here at the auction house so I can kind of show you these things. So the first item we're going to look at is the Frosted Armor Kit. Now this is a new thing that you can put on your pants, and it basically just gives you a bunch of agility or strength and some armor. You can get the cheaper one here, the first rank. The second rank is a little bit more, but still pretty affordable. The third rank is pretty pricey at the moment, 16.9k, but it definitely gives you quite a big chunk of extra stats. So that's one thing you can look at getting. Again, you don't want to spend all of this gold, like a big chunk of gold, 20k, just to put on a pair of pants that you're probably going to replace very, very quickly. So just keep that in mind. I mean, hey, it's your gold, it's your money, you do with it what you want. The other thing we could look at are the enchants on cloaks. So we have a bunch. I would suggest going for just straight up Writ of Avoidance. This is going to give you 100 avoidance. This one is, in my opinion, better than the Graceful Avoidance, because this one just reduces fall damage by 10% and gives you less avoidance. So I would say go with full-on avoidance. This is going to help you live in Mythic Plus and just take a little bit less damage. For chest enchants, you're going to want to get the enchant Waking Stats. Again, these are pretty affordable, thankfully. Oddly enough, the rank 2 is cheaper than the rank 1. So, with this being 1k gold, I would go ahead and just buy this for whatever chest you have right now. Actually, just looking at this, I'm going to grab one of these for myself. There we go. The other thing we can look at is the wrists. So I'm an enchanter here, but I don't have many of the, the good enchants. So let's see, wrists. So I would suggest just going straight up for the avoidance. Again, it's just going to give you a little bit more survivability in Mythic Plus. You can't go wrong with it, really. Avoidance is very, very useful and a great thing to have when you're doing Mythic Plus. Leech is okay, but we already have Leech. And yes, we did just get nerfed. Our Leech got nerfed a little bit, but honestly, Avoidance is going to do you better in the long term. And again, you don't want to spend too much on these if you have really low wrists. Probably just wait, get an upgrade from Mythic Plus and then put the enchant on it, but this one's fairly affordable. So that's wrists. What else we got? We got boots. So yeah, for boots, there aren't many options. I would suggest probably going with the stamina, or you can go with speed if you really want to, but it's not, speed is more of just a nice little quality of life thing, but stamina is going to make you live longer. I think that's probably the play here. We don't need mount speed. I would go with Watcher's Loam. Again, this one is going to be pretty pricey. A rank 3 on my server at least is 19.5k, so, I wouldn't spend that much yet because I have a 379. I'm going to wait till I get a higher piece and then throw one of those bad boys on there. Now, when it comes to the weapons, there's basically 2 weapon enchants that are going to be good for us. There's Sophic Devotion, which increases your primary stat by 783 for 15 seconds. Or there's Frozen Devotion. So permanently enchants a weapon to sometimes radiate ice, dealing 9,403 frost damage split between enemies in front of you. Damage is increased for each enemy struck up to 5 enemies. So these two enchants are the two that are best for us. They sin the best for us, but they're not what you might think. Later on, Sophic Devotion is simming better in AoE. You would think Frozen Devotion would be better for AoE because it's doing like split damage between enemies in front of you. It does more damage for each enemy struck. You would think that would be the AoE one, but right now in this situation where we are in the expansion, what our stats are like, Frozen Devotion is actually doing more for single target. The reason being, it does a flat amount of damage, right? It's always going to do 9,403 damage. If you're only fighting one target, it does all of that damage to that one target. If you're fighting 2 targets, it's going to split that 9,403 between 2 targets. If you're fighting 3, it's going to split between 3, 4, etc. And then it's adding just a little bit of extra damage for each extra enemy up to 5. And it doesn't really scale up that well. It's going to be good for us now because that 9,403 damage is actually pretty substantial in relation to the damage that we're getting from all of our other abilities this early in the expansion. Right now, the damage is kind of on par, if not a little bit higher, making it very, very useful. But as we get more gear, as we start doing more damage with everything else, with our toolkit, with our, all of our abilities and all that type of stuff, the damage on this enchant is going to look a lot worse because relatively it's a lot lower than the damage we'd be putting out when we have higher gear. So later on, this is going to lose value, and then we'll start getting more value from Sophic because you're just getting straight primary stat. So if you're looking to get enchants for Mythic Plus this coming Tuesday, I would suggest doing 2 Frozen Devotions, and these do work together. You can use 2 of them. They proc independently, and yeah, it's going to be some pretty decent damage for now. And then as you get more gear, like I said, you might want to swap them out for Sophic, but that's not going to be for a while. I wouldn't worry about that. Just get some Frozen Devotions on both weapons and you will be set. Now we can talk about embellishments. I spoke a little bit about this in my last video on what you should be spending your Sparks of Ingenuity on. So if you haven't seen that video, I'll put a little link to it up in the top right of this video. You can click on that, go take a look, but I'll just give you a quick recap here. Essentially, what I did was I made a belt. I've since upgraded it to 392 since the video that I made. So it's eye level 392. It has crit mastery on it, and I put the first embellishment that I have on it. So greatly improves the comfort of your gear, allowing you to enter a zone of focus while over 90% health, granting you 191 mastery. So anytime I'm over 90% health, I'm getting an extra 191 mastery. So it's a little finicky, right? Because you have to be over 90% health, which is kind of a high threshold. There's a lot of moments where you could probably go under 90% health, but luckily us as Havoc Demon Hunters, we have a lot of leech, we have a lot of defensives. Even though it just got nerfed, we're still very, very strong, very tanky. So in a lot of situations, we're going to be over 90% health and we get that extra mastery. It also means we're probably going to have that extra mastery for all of our openers. So in raid, this embellishment loses a lot of value, right? Because you kind of have one opener, and then there's a lot of opportunities throughout a raid fight that your health is probably going to be under 90% health, especially on prog, right? It's just how it goes. But at least in Mythic Plus, with an average group who's not chain pulling, you're going to have moments of rest in between each pull, and that'll be when your HP gets topped up to full, and then you'll be doing your openers on packs, and you'll have that extra mastery for all of those openers, pairing it with meta, etc., etc. So this one is working pretty well. It's going to be, I think, probably the play in Mythic Plus for now. There are other embellishments that you could put on gear. There's one called Fang Adornments, which I think can only be put on a weapon if you made a weapon. But that one's a little weird as well. It's been discovered that it doesn't crit. It's not able to crit, which means it also doesn't scale with our talent Know Your Enemy. So that one is over simming. There's another one, Bronze Grips or something like that. That one is also good. It's more reliable, I would say, than the Blue Silken Lining. That's what this one is called, by the way, Blue Silken Lining. The thing with the Bronze Grips is that if it either does damage or it does healing on your attacks. So even if it's not doing damage, it's doing healing. So at least it's doing something, where The blue silken lining, potentially it could be doing nothing if you're stuck, under 90% health. But it's up to you. I think, honestly, the play is probably just going to be blue silken lining, for Mythic Plus at least. And that can be put on armor. So, I made a belt. That's where my 1 embellishment is going. And you can use up to 2 embellishments total. So I have 1 on my belt. The next one that I'm going to be getting is the Elemental Lariat. See if I can spell it properly. Elemental Lariat, and this is a neck piece that will be craftable starting Tuesday. The pattern for this drops from the Primal Storms, which are going to be events that start happening in the world on Tuesday. They're basically like the invasions that we had in the pre-launch events, but they're, out in the Dragon Isles, and they're going to drop a lot of cool stuff. There's tokens for gear you can get for transmog. A lot of the gear you're probably going to have better already, but it's great for, alts if you're trying to gear up some alts. And there are some profession recipe patterns and stuff like that you can get. So the Elemental Lariat is going to be craftable starting Tuesday. If you can find a jewel crafter that can make it, I would highly suggest making one of these. You get 2 random stats on it. You can use a missive, make it crit mastery. You have a socket on it, and you have this embellishment. Your spells and abilities have a chance to empower one of your socketed elemental gems, granting 429 of their associated stat for 12 seconds. So randomly, you can just get an extra 429 crit, 429 mastery. Honestly, I think if you have any gems that you can use at this moment, you're going to want probably, if you can afford it, the one with primary stat and a secondary stat. So you can get like agility and crit. In your other slots, I think you want to get probably just crit. Crit is the one that's going to scale for us the best right now. So yeah, this neck is super, super good. A lot of people are going to be trying to get this as soon as they can. I would imagine this neck is BIS for many classes and specs. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets nerfed, but we'll see. So that's what I'm going to be spending my second Spark of Ingenuity on Tuesday, if I can find somebody to make it, and that'll be going in my next slot. So those are your 2 embellishments that you're going to use. Now there are a couple other consumables that you might want to consider getting. There are these new things that I honestly don't think many people know about right now. They're basically the new version of Sharpening Stones or Shadow Core Oil. They're called Fauna Runes. And I've kind of tried to spec into being able to make these efficiently through inscription. But there's 3 different kinds. There's the Buzzing Rune, the Chirping Rune, and the Howling Rune. The Buzzing Rune is the one that we're probably going to want. So you put these on your weapon. You can put 1 on each weapon, and each one gives you 217 crit for 2 hours. And now this is the rank 1 version of it. So we can go check how much the rank 3 gives you. Just out of curiosity, I'd like to know as well. God, where am I going? Oh god. I've lost control of my Drake. Alright. Buzzing Rune. Rank 3 gives you 310 crit. So you can get 1 on each weapon. That's 620 extra crit rating permanently for 2 hours. And these aren't like crazy expensive. What was it? Buzzing Rune, 480 gold per. I mean, they're lasting you 2 hours. You don't necessarily have to get the rank 3. You can get rank 2. They're substantially cheaper. But definitely something you want to put on your weapons. And don't forget about them. Like I said, I don't think many people know about them. This isn't just me trying to up my sales on the auction house on Tuesday, because I will be selling these. But no, that you definitely want to use them. That's a lot of extra stat. The crit is feeding right into Know Your Enemy. It's going to increase your damage by a ton. I promise you. Now, in terms of food, you have a couple options. From what I've been hearing, a lot of people are going to be going for the Fated Fortune Cookie. They are a little pricey again, but they're pretty good. So you get 75 flat agility for it. Incredible. That's a lot of agility. That's like essentially a feast. And these are selling for quite a high price. So I don't advise you get these. If you're a whale and you have a whole bunch of gold and nothing to spend it on, you could perhaps get some of these. Or, find the people to make them for you. That's always an option too. Other than that, we have the Fillet of Fangs. Now, this is a lot cheaper, and it's going to give you 105 crit for 1 hour. You can't go wrong. It's a nice chunk of crit. You can also get this recipe pretty easily if you do the Tuskar quest lines, and, you know, leveling up cooking to 30 is nothing. It takes like 5 minutes, so you could potentially make these yourself, but that's an option for you. The other one is the 1,000 Bone Tongue Slicer. Now, this one is a mix of crit and mastery. You get 67 of each, so it's up to you, whatever you feel like you might need. Totally up to you. You could sim these two if you wanted, but ultimately it's not going to matter too much which one you use, as long as you're using something. Now, with your files, you're going to want... There's two, basically. There's Glacial Fury. Let's see if I can type. Oh God. File of Glacial Fury. So whenever you first attack a target, gain a stack of Glacial Fury for 15 seconds, up to 5 stacks. Dealing damage has a chance to unleash a blast of 9,091 frost damage upon the target, which is split among nearby enemies. This effect is increased by 15% per stack. Again, this is essentially Frozen Devotion. It's the same thing as your weapon enchants, but pretty good. And it lasts 30 minutes or through death. 30 minutes and through death. And you can use 2 of them consecutively to get a total of 60 minutes on it. So again, you probably don't want to spend 2k per on the rank 3 ones. It's a little bit crazy in my opinion, but you could definitely get the rank 1s or rank 2s. So that's an option. You can also do File of Elemental Chaos. So this one, infuse yourself with the power of the elements, granting you a random elemental boon that changes every 60 seconds. Each boon increases a secondary stat by 652 and grants a bonus effect. Lasts 30 minutes and through death. Same thing, you can use 2 of these back to back. You get 60 minutes on it. This one is, honestly, this one's pretty good. I think I'm going to be going with this one just because the Glacial Fury is good, but it's splitting damage and it just feels a little weird. I like the idea of getting just flat secondary stats. It is going to cycle through them. Like, you know, you might end up getting versatility, which is probably the worst of our stats, but getting a whole bunch of it at once is probably not so bad, right? It's going to give you a little extra damage, a little extra survivability. But when it does land on things like crit or mastery, you're going to really see that, right? That's an extra 602 with the rank 2. So 602 extra crit, and then you're getting the however much crit we were getting from just the buzzing runes. We're getting a lot of extra crit from these consumables, so it all adds up. And in terms of potions, I don't know if you can get these off the auction house. You can. Okay. We have the Elemental Potion of Power. So these are basically the DPS potions that you should be using, right? They give you primary stat, 500. The rank 1 gives you 502 primary stat for 30 seconds. This is a huge power boost. You can use this on pull, use it with your meta in your opener. You know, if you have the Algathar puzzle box, pair it up with that. There's a lot of things you can do, and this will really help you. I highly suggest you buy some potions, elemental potions of power. Buy a bunch of them if you can afford them, and don't forget to use them. I know a lot of guys buy, you know, a stack of these because they think they've been told they need them, and then they just sit in their bags or on their bar and they never press the button. So if you're buying them, make sure you use them. There is also some invisibility pots you can get. Potion of the Hushed Zephyr. Hushed Zephyr. So yeah, these are just invis pots. The different ranks last for increasing time. Rank 1 lasts for 12 seconds, rank 2 is 15, rank 3 is 18 seconds. And these are on a 5-minute cooldown. You can also get some auto hammers. Those are always a good thing to have. So if you have to repair mid-dungeon, which the chances of that happening are probably pretty high, because I'm telling you guys think you're going to be timing 20s this week. You're in for a rude awakening. These dungeons, there's going to be mechanics that you probably didn't even know existed once you step into anything above a 10. So expect some wipes, probably get some auto hammers. And what else do we have? I think that might be it in terms of consumables. Now, there are two other things that I wanted to show you guys. First one is we're getting into a new season of Mythic Plus, and that means it's time for a new Mythic Plus Weakauras package. So if you have the old ones from Season 4, you can go ahead and delete them. Any old Shadowlands Weakauras that you have, you can get rid of them. You don't want those things anymore. There's a new one you can get now. It's this one called Super Dragonflight Dungeons, and this is by Kazi. And of course, it comes with all of his other things. It has like custom sounds in it. So if you're installing this and you want to use the custom sounds, just make sure that you're, reading the instructions. It tells you to install the shared media folder, max out your master volume, and enable the add-on. It gives you an example. So just make sure you're following the instructions, and you can import the Weakauras with the Weakauras string. And yeah, it's going to give you Weakauras for all the new dungeons. Going to point out mechanics to you. It'll help you a ton. The last thing I'm going to leave you guys with is an update to the Plaque QT Weakauras pack. If you guys remember, I made a video on it back at the start of Shadowlands Season 4. So what this does is it's a nameplate modifier. So it's not changing your nameplates or anything. It's adding glows, progress bars, cast bars on top or above on your nameplates. So it's really handy for seeing certain things, like if a mob has a frontal that it's going to cast, it puts this big bar above their nameplate and it says frontal. It gives you a countdown. Yeah, it'll glow your focus target. Yellow needs to stun, so it glows at yellow if it needs a stun, CC, or a knock. Pink is an important interrupt. And turquoise NPC is healing. So these are great things to be able to see in a dungeon, especially because these are brand new, right? So a lot of you probably aren't going to know the mechanics. You're not going to know what mobs to look out for, which ones are dangerous, what you need to kick, what you don't need to kick. And a Weakauras like this can really, really help you. So make sure you get this one, copy it, paste it into your Weakauras add-on, and you'll be good to go. Now just keep in mind that he is updating this Weakauras pretty often as he finds new things. So as it says right here, make sure you're updating this. Maybe bookmark this tab or keep it saved somewhere so you can come back to this every couple days and just update it. I'll be putting links to both of these Weakauras in the description of this video. What else can I say you guys should do? I guess you should go watch some other content creators on YouTube. They've been making some dungeon walkthrough guides. They go through them step by step, talk about each pack, talk about the mechanics of the trash and the bosses. You could check out Shaw. He's been doing a lot of that. You can also check out Trell, and I'm sure there's many others, but those are the first two that come to mind. So that's all I have for you today, guys. I hope you guys found some of this useful. Again, a lot of the things, like the stuff you buy off the auction house, you don't need to do. Do what you can. Do what you can afford. Don't worry about it too much. Once you start getting some more gear from Mythic Plus or from Raid, then you can start thinking about spending some proper gold on enchants. But do what you can. Do what you think is necessary, and you'll be just fine. Alright guys, if you like this video, give it a like. Make sure you sub to the channel. I'm pretty sure this video is going to get us to 20k. We're like right there. So thank you guys for 20k subs. It's pretty mind-blowing, man. 20k. Wow. All right. See you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.